Anchor. You can support us with the Super Thanks button below.
No one can know exactly what will happen in the future. However, some experts can make predictions about what might happen in the future by looking at signs. There are many examples such as weather reports and election polls. In times of war, it is very difficult to make predictions about the future. However, sometimes concrete predictions can be made because of the statements and military preparations. Russian soldiers have concrete predictions in this regard. This has taken a huge toll on the Russian army. The latest statement from the Ukrainian government reveals the situation the Russian soldiers are living in. So what exactly is happening in the war zone? What are the estimates of the Russian soldiers? What is the Ukrainian government saying? Anchor News team continues to cover the latest developments in the war. We have investigated the latest situation inside the Russian army for you. It is very important to support independent journalism to continue such news. You can support our team by using the Super Thanks button below the video. If you are ready, let's start. The Ukrainian army has been resisting the Russian invasion since the beginning of the war. This resistance is thanks to a very important military plan. Ukrainian President Zelensky and the commanders held a meeting before the start of the war and prepared a comprehensive resistance plan. This plan has been implemented in stages. The Ukrainian army managed to liberate most of the territories occupied by Russia. According to this plan, the Ukrainian army is now expected to make its final move. This move is called the Spring Offensive. The Ukrainian army plans to end this war completely by launching a massive offensive against the Russian army. The Ukrainian army will use all the ammunition in its inventory for this operation. Drones, HIMARS missiles, Leopard tanks and Javelin missiles will be part of this operation. It is also known that the Ukrainian army will deploy snipers at critical points at the beginning of this offensive. Media outlets in Ukraine have recently started to report a lot about this operation. Everyone in Ukraine is now waiting for this operation. It is thought that the Ukrainian army will be victorious as a result of this big operation. Ukrainians are not the only ones talking about the Great Spring Offensive. Russian soldiers are also closely following the news about this offensive. Russian soldiers know very well how inadequate their troops are. Most Russian soldiers don't even have enough bullets to fight. Russian soldiers now realize that they cannot win this war. Thousands of Russian soldiers are expected to die when the Ukrainian army's spring offensive begins. This situation is constantly discussed among Russian soldiers. Russian soldiers want to withdraw from the region as soon as possible, but the commanders do not allow it. Russian soldiers do not want to die for Putin. The Russian soldiers have only one solution: surrender. As you know, thousands of Russian soldiers have surrendered to the Ukrainian army since the beginning of the war. However, it is known that there has been a very serious increase in the number of Russian soldiers surrendering in recent days. Russian soldiers are experiencing a great panic. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry also made a statement on this issue. In the statement made by the Defense Ministry, it was said as follows: "The closer the counteroffensive, the harder the surrender season. Don't wait for the heat. The most favorable conditions are now. In April 3rd, 200 Russian soldiers applied for surrender through the I Want to Live project. It has received over 16,000 requests to date." This statement by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry received thousands of likes in a short period of time. Some of the information in this post is indeed very important. First of all, the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense has started to provide more concrete data on the number of Russian soldiers who have surrendered. It is very interesting that 32,000 soldiers surrendered in just 1 month. This number is the biggest proof of how much fear the soldiers in the Russian army are experiencing. In the first week of May, the number of Russian soldiers surrendering is reported to have increased even more. Even before the Ukrainian army begins its spring offensive, thousands of Russian soldiers are leaving the war. The surrender of Russian soldiers makes the Ukrainian army's job easier. In this way, the Ukrainian army establishes a great superiority over the Russian army. On the other hand, surrendered Russian soldiers make confessions for the Ukrainian army. Russian soldiers give information about the number of weapons and soldiers in their units. This information makes it easier for the Ukrainian army to plan a better offensive. Ukrainian commanders analyze the situation on all fronts and prepare a very detailed offensive plan. In addition, the Ukrainian army continues to use drones to gather information about the military structure of the Russian army. Thanks to the images recorded by drones, critical information about the military capacity of the Russian army is captured. By using these methods, the Ukrainian army continues to establish a serious superiority over Russia. There was another interesting sentence in the statement from the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. Ukraine is trying to encourage Russian soldiers to surrender. After emphasizing that more and more Russian soldiers surrendered as the spring offensive approached, it also calls on Russian soldiers. This is the right time to surrender. Russian soldiers are constantly following the statements made by the Ukrainian government because Russian soldiers do not trust the media outlets in their country. This makes it easier for the Ukrainian government to communicate with Russian soldiers. The statements made by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry are the talk of the Russian soldiers. There is also talk among Russian soldiers that the ministry has said that this is the best time to surrender. Russian soldiers know that the spring offensive is only a short time away. That's why they continue to surrender by calling the I Want to Live hotline. The I Want to Live project has indeed been one of the moves that changed the course of this war. Thanks to the special line set up by the Ukrainian government, Russian soldiers can easily communicate with Ukrainian soldiers. Russian soldiers call the I Want to Live hotline and tell their location. Ukrainian commanders then plan the best moment for the Russian soldiers to surrender. Then a corridor is created for Russian soldiers to surrender safely. The surrendered Russian soldiers are taken to a safe area in Ukraine. After a short time, these soldiers are taken to the captured Russian soldiers. The surrendered Russian soldiers are kept in the same place with the captured soldiers, and their surrender is hidden, because when the war is over, these soldiers must return safely to Russia. The Ukrainian government is very careful to ensure the safety of the surrendered Russian soldiers. Thanks to this extraordinary project, the Ukrainian government has managed to inflict great damage on the Russian army. Russian soldiers who do not want to fight continue to surrender to the Ukrainian army. This project is indeed one of the most interesting in the history of warfare. What do you think about the spring offensive launched by the Ukrainian army? How do you think this operation will turn out? What do you think about the surrender of Russian soldiers? What do you think about the impact of I Want to Live project on the course of this war? Don't forget to share your opinions with us. Follow us for more updates.
All rights to these videos belong to Anka Daily News YouTube channel. Our Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook usernames are @AnkaDailyNews. Do not rely on any other social media publications. We legally fight all websites and channels that use it without our permission.